Okay, welcome back. So what I want to go through here is inside of this readme.md file. At the bottom, we have a list of commands here that you can run. So the commands that we're most worried about are this npm run servdev. So we're using the npm package manager, right? And it has a command named run, and then it's going to run this script called servdev. And you might be wondering, okay, where does this come from, right? So we can look at our package.json file here, and inside of the scripts directory, so when you run npm run, it looks at this scripts object, and then whatever the name of the value that we pass in, it will then execute the command. So servdev, and then this is the actual command that it will run. So you can manually just put this into your command line and run it from your root, and that would be completely okay. But since we already have it all set up for npm, you can just use this command npm run servdev. And so I can open up a terminal here and I could just run this. And then we get a browser pop up here. And here we go. Delete me to get started. And this is what you should see if everything is working correctly. Now that's very cool. And we can see down here in our terminal all the different output that it has. And if everything's like green or in yellow, like great, everything's good. So what I want to do is stop this from running. And so what you would do is press Control-C. And it'll ask you to terminate batch job. You can either press Control-C again to just stop it, or you can type Y. Sorry. Yeah, so that's pretty simple. Now, one thing that's really good about IntelliJ IDEA here is that we can essentially just set up this job so we can run it from our current file up here. And if my interface looks a little different from your interface, it's because underneath here I'm running a beta UI, which I think just looks a little bit better. I'm not going to switch back to the old one, but the place where you'd find it in the interface is the same. In the normal version, up at the top bar here, you're going to find a cogwheel, and then you just go down and you say switch to beta UI, which is probably going to be the UI in the future. So you could be watching this like a year in the future, and maybe this is now the default UI. But also, I'm just running color scheme, just a dark color scheme. So there's a few different ones to pick here, whichever one that you like. Anyways, sorry, we got a little off track there, but what we wanted to do here was show you a cool thing that you can do. So you can right click on your package.json and go down to show npm scripts. And then in the sidebar, there's going to be this npm button that shows up, and it's going to list all your scripts, all your run script things. And then we can just double click servdev and it'll run the servdev command for us. And we don't have to do anything. And then in the future, we can just come up here and click current file, and then we'll see it down in here. So then in the future, we can just click this and here it goes. And then you can rerun it, or you can stop it manually from up here. So this is pretty nice way to do it. This is how I typically do it. It just saves you a couple of seconds, and it's just a little bit more convenient, and it's something that you should know. So I think that's really all that you really need to know for this tutorial. Again, there are other commands in here. You can serve a production build. So what it's going to do is it's going to build a production version of this, and then it's going to serve it. But because it's like highly optimized, typically you would only do that if you're just trying to check your production build. And then there's two other commands here. So there's a build dev and build production, and they're kind of the same thing as these, except they don't open it in a web browser. It just builds the files, and then it creates a directory called dist. And so we could just run that real quick. And then you can actually just go look at the files. If for whatever reason you were wondering what the compilation looks like, okay, so here's dist. And then here's all our compiled files in it. And then it's like I can open this up and, this isn't minified, but it has all the code, all the CSS you would actually have in it, as well as source maps and whatnot. So that's definitely something that you can do if you wanted. And then production is the same way. I'll make a dist directory and it'll have all the optimized code in it. And then there's a deploy command, and that runs this gulp file. So it'll run this deploy task, which is made up of 2 tasks called the webpack build and gzip. So it kind of does the same thing. It makes a webpack build and then it gzips the files because that's my typical workflow. I work with AWS a lot, and so I might pre-gzip things and then upload them to like S3 buckets, and then it just takes one step out of the process. So that's pretty much all that you need to know. And I think we can get down to actually writing code in the next tutorial. So I'll see you there.